And so we pull into the house and we drive go through the garage, and I see his golf bag there. It's outside the kitchen door. And there's 3 different putters in there, which is not good if you're lining up the Masters, right? And he comes to the door. I'm like, how are you doing? And he goes, fine. I'm like, 3 putters? And he goes, yeah. And so I said, I can help you. And he said, all right, meet me at 9 a.m. on the green tomorrow morning.
Mark Immelman has lived championship golf from every angle. CBS Sports commentator, PGA Tour Live and ESPN analyst, host of On the Mark, one of the most respected performance podcasts in the game. But before the microphone, he was an All-American, national champion, NCAA Coach of the Year, and Hall of Fame inductee. He coached and guided his younger brother Trevor Immelman to a Masters victory over Tiger Woods. Brother, coach, broadcaster, teacher, storyteller. Mark understands pressure, belief, and greatness from inside the ropes. Not just how champions perform, but how they think. Welcome to Unlimit Your Potential. I'm the host, Seth Pepper, and I have a special treat, a conversation with someone that I've actually been on your show as well, On the Mark, and that was a really exciting conversation. So I was looking forward to maybe turning it the other way and maybe focus a little bit more on you as well. So Mark Immelman, and you've basically done it all, from everything from, I know that you were an NCAA champion, not just once, but twice, which is really significant for the audience that doesn't play golf, because golf has one of the lowest winning percentages. So to do it twice is pretty significant.
Yeah, well, quick backstory about me. I'm from South Africa originally. Seth was kind enough to join my show, the On the Mark Golf podcast, because my approach to sport is kind of holistic, and I'm sure you figured that out. And golf is more than just the nuts and bolts and the swinging of the golf club and such. It's a real mental game, to your point. And so you brought fantastic insight, which I was thankful for. But to the golf thing, you've got to have, I've heard it said, a healthy relationship with failure if you want to play competitive golf, because the great winners of our time will win not even a quarter of the time. And for any other golfer, if you've played, you're making mistakes more often than not, because golf is such a mercurial game. So it's I count my victories, part skill, part timing, a lot of happenstance. And it's funny because as a kid, I won prolifically, and then I went through a stage where I didn't. And then I came to college, and it kind of unlocked me. So coming to college, the first year I sort of found my way, and from there I felt like things accelerated. And my junior year was when I was probably the best.
Is there anything that you could speak to about unlocking? Because that's the unlimit your potential element, possibly.
I love the way you put it, to unlimit your potential. Gosh, how long have you got? Because the unlimiting your potential thing, to me, first off, is removing your own governor, because we all do. And from a golf point of view, you can speak to the swimming. The governor on golfers is the fact that you fail so often, and then you play like you don't want to fail instead of playing just to be great. And when I was a young kid, I played with a healthy fear of failure. And so I was always consistent, but I won, but I'd more win because I outlasted people, if that makes sense. And so I guess when I unlimited my potential was when I got into contention, and then I didn't just play defensively and hope that the other people played worse. Then I started to find a way to play without fear, play without concern for the result, play with a carefree sort of a way, or care enough to try hard, but care enough that you don't get wrapped up in the results. And this is what you talked to me about, where when you broke the record, you looked up and you didn't even know what time you had swum, I believe it was. And you broke the record, and golf was kind of the same way for me. When I got into falling in love with the craft of it is when I started to enjoy it and welcome the pressure, and then not play to fail anymore, I think was the big deal.
So when people are kind of identifying with a score, that's when you start to really restrict that unlimited element. So is there something that happens that you just, I call it the F it switch, you know, you can fill in the blanks, right?
I see where you're going, yeah.
And so I was second in the nation twice, my sophomore year and my junior year, and then my senior year when this is it, you know, this is your last chance. This strange thing happened. My coach could see it in me, but I couldn't really see it in me. I thought second was pretty darn good, but he kept on pushing me because he was a world record holder.
Yeah.
And he used to say, "Why you apologize for your greatness?" And he'd say, "Why don't you just go take it? Why are you asking for permission?" And then that senior year, I just all of a sudden, something came over me, and it was just, F this, I'm just gonna go take it.
That's a good question, Seth. I'm not sure I ever had that moment, that catalyst. I think maybe, because when I won when I was a kid, I was just better than everyone else. But then you ascend to a different level, and then, you know, the pool's deeper and everyone's equally as good, if not better, and you've got to find a way to win. So I don't think I had a tangible moment. I would just say that I sort of grew up. Maybe it was maturity, and the maturity of looking at the thing pragmatically, as if to say, well, look, you can either make this shot or you can't. The truth is you've got to hit the next shot anyway. So if you hit a good one or you hit a bad one, the common denominator is there is another one. And so as a result, then I felt like then it wasn't like it was life and death to just do the shot that I was over. Because when I was a kid, I remember learning from Gary Player, his lessons were always laced with sort of stuff that you had to think about. And he gave one simple lesson, and that was, you've got to hit every shot as if it's the last one you'll ever hit. And as a younger golfer, I equated that with like, oh my gosh. But then when I became more mature, I looked at it with a mindset of going, well, if this was the last shot I was going to hit, I'd focus harder, I'd prepare for it better, I wouldn't go into it with a crappy attitude, and I'd let it fly. I mean, if this is the last golf shot I'm going to hit, I'm not going to be backing down. Well, at least I hope I wouldn't. So I guess that was this maturity of looking at a valuable statement like that and just reframing it mentally a little bit, and that sort of led to me playing not stupid aggressive, but just not defensive all the time.
And so commitment's a big part of most sports, if not all sports. And being committed to the shot is obviously really important in golf. Was there more to being able to let go of a bad shot and move into the next shot?
Yes. Well, it's like races, I guess, because us golfers, we remember the bad more than we remember the good. That I can vouch for. Like we hear at the WM Phoenix Open, when I'm out there with the best of the best, when they get off the golf course, they will think about the shots that they missed. Now, this is the curious thing about golf, because when you're learning the game, like any beginning golfer, you're going to see larger increments of improvement. I'll always remember when I teach little kids, right? And they come for their first lesson, and they'll hit a shot, and they'll screw it up, and that's okay. Some little kids will run and pick up the ball and put it back down and hit it again. And then when they get the ball in the air, it's like, this is an event, and I'm excited about this, and I'm looking forward to doing that again. And then as golfers improve, the rates of increments, or the increments of improvement, begin to narrow. So when you get to the elite level, you're not shaving strokes off your game, you're shaving tenths of strokes, quarters of strokes. Like if you save a quarter stroke a week in a 4-round tournament, that's one stroke, and that could be the difference between winning and losing. So now the golfer looks more at the mistakes that were made as opposed to the great shots that were hit. And I feel like the people that have a lot of longevity and the folks that aren't driven crazy by the game, they look at good and bad with the same mindset. And that to me is the biggest challenge, because at any level of the game, or in any sport to me, winning isn't just doing well, winning is not making mistakes. But when you begin to realize that, you don't have to be flawless to win, well, I guess in your sport you do, because this is tenths of seconds, but in golf you can go through 72 holes in a tournament and make some mistakes, as long as you don't let those mistakes proliferate and be the beginning of something bigger. So it's the ability, to your point, to forget the bad, to move ahead, and to not necessarily forget. That's impossible to do, but I feel like once it's happened, you're like, okay, that's done. I've got to now hit the next shot as if it's the most important shot in my life.
Excellent. So when you look, now you're an announcer. You've been a sports agent also.
Yeah,
Did a
trying
little
to find
bit.
my groove.
And then you were a D1 head coach as well. And so you've been a coach at the highest level of college, and then also you worked with high level pros and continue to, you're just part of the environment of golf. Is there, when you watch some of the greats, whether it's someone like Gary Player is one of the winningest players of all time, or now with the Phoenix Open going on right now, is there something different about them? Do they just have this? Sometimes people will explain it as an aura, or maybe it's just a focus. Different ways of describing it.
It varies with different players. Like when I've been around Tiger Woods, when he's on the golf course, he's in like a zen-like sort of a state. But then he quickly clicks out of it, and then he goes in and out of this zone, this flow state, if you want to call it. And then someone like a Rory McIlroy, you can see he's focused, but he's more exuberant about stuff, and he is not as in his lane as what a lot of golfers are. But that's what he does well. And so I guess the real good ones understand exactly who they are. It's that know thyself thing, and then you do that. But I feel like there's got to, at the highest level of the game, the talent pool is so great that you have to find a way to separate yourself. And so if you know what your personality is, everyone wants to be better, and then I'm like, well, I'm going to try and be like Scottie, but you can't because you're not Scottie Scheffler, for argument's sake. So I can't say that there's a commonality between all of them in how they approach it, but they certainly know who they are, and they don't deviate from that. And then I would say they have a nauseating ability to welcome the mundane. Like when it comes to working and practicing and stuff, they will do the most boring stuff for hours on end.
Yeah.
Which takes a lot of discipline. From being at the highest level, these greats, they sacrifice a lot too. So they do the fundamentals well, and they do them consistently well. They all nail that stuff. They know who they are, and then they make sacrifices. So I've sort of found my way to that answer, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I remember Kobe, he said, I never get bored with the basics.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why he was the best during his generation. So now, when you look at your relationship with your brother, because that's something that we share, is that my brother is also a national champion, and he was the
Is he
first.
older or younger?
That's what I was going to say. Is this is a twist because
he's older than you. Yeah.
I'm the older brother.
Oh, you are? I'm the older brother too.
Okay.
I love the fact that you think I'm younger.
The two know-it-alls are here.
All right.
So with my brother, we started really late. That's kind of the story behind us. I started when I was 14, and in our sport, people start very young usually. And he started when he was 17, like learning how to swim. And so for me, it was always the mental side of things was going to be the way that we could improve quicker than others. And so that was kind of our X factor.
Yeah.
Our relationship, though, is interesting because we're so different. We're complete opposites, like siblings can be. How did you find your relationship with your brother? Is he a lot different than you? Did you, as a coach, because you're working with him as well, have to look at things differently?
He is different to me. Trevor is pedantic about doing the right thing. He's almost militant in a way. If he knows something's going to work, it's like that thing where it's, if one's good, two must be better. And he will work himself to the bone. Not that I didn't, but I would say I'm a little bit more laissez-faire with stuff. I'm going to work hard, but there was more of a creative sort of a side to me, I guess, for starters. So he's just a super hard worker. In terms of our manner, we're both fiercely competitive, but he gets a look in his eye that you can see, where I'm not sure I had that. Now, maybe my competitors would tell me different, but I just saw Trevor had this way about him that when he was in contention, he was going to find a way to win. If I won, it was because I was talented and I sort of outlasted someone. Trevor had an uncanny ability, if he had to make a putt on the final hole, he'd be that guy that he would. Maybe he just rose to the moment. So that was a difference between us two. But in terms of being brothers, we're sort of the same. We sound the same. We look somewhat the same. He's 9 years my junior. So when I was coaching him, I wouldn't say I found his currency in terms of the communication. I think if I had taught him now that I'm a bit wiser in my craft as a coach, it may have been more productive. We were successful, but it may have been more productive because when I was teaching him, he was just a young, talented kid, and I was just telling him what to do kind of thing. So there wasn't much of a give and take until he started winning at the highest level. Then I sort of more had to convince him about why stuff was worthwhile doing. So sort of long-winded, but yeah, there's a difference between us, but in many respects, I guess we're the same too.
Did you, as the older brother, did you feel like you were blazing a trail? And what ended up happening with my brother is that I think he got familiar to the journey quicker because he was experiencing it through me. Do you feel like you kind of at least helped, if not sped up, the progress because here you are performing at the highest level?
You'd have to ask Trevor for that one. I would think so, because when I was playing junior golf, like when I was competitive when I was 16, for argument's sake, he's 7. So he would come along to tournaments, and so he was exposed to everything younger. When he was a young kid learning to play, it would be like I started when I was age 13. So it was me and my buddies, 14-year-olds, with a 5-year-old with us. And we didn't mollycoddle him. It was like we were babysitting for my mom over the summer. And it's not like we wanted to hang out with a 5-year-old. So when he played golf with us, he had to keep up. And so with necessity becoming the mother of invention, he just found a way to compete. So yeah, I would say maybe I did, but I think you'd get a more honest answer out of Trevor.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. I remember hearing with NFL wide receivers that they're usually the second or third born. And you can imagine, because they're always trying to keep up.
Yeah.
So that's that resistance that's the teacher.
Well, that was when Trevor was playing as a little tot with me and my friends. He obviously couldn't hit the ball as far as us. But he quickly figured out that the way he could compete in golf was on the shots that didn't take power. So he spent hours on our club putting green. And he'd be betting with the members and stuff and winning sort of pocket money and stuff all the time. And he got sensational around the greens, on and around the greens, so much so that, again, Gary Player told my dad. My dad said, "So what do I do with this kid? Clearly he's good." Because Mr. Player saw him and said he's going to be great. And so Gary said, "Build a green in your garden," which my dad duly did. And Trevor would spend hours on end around that thing. And so he had these short game skills, the scoring stuff. And then when he became 14, 15, 16, he got stronger and longer. And that was a recipe for big success.
So fast forward to the Masters, when were you in attendance in that?
Yeah.
I would assume you were.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you see it coming? Did you know that this was possible, or did this come out of nowhere?
You know what, Seth? I wish I could call lottery numbers like I do golf performances, because I'd be a lot better off than what I am. That week, or the week prior, he played in Houston and played okay, but putted really poorly and missed the cuts. And at that stage, we weren't working full-time together because I was busy with the college stuff and he was playing on the PGA Tour. And I watched some footage on TV and I saw what he was doing. And he was seeing these coaches and they were showing him all this technical data and stuff. And I knew he just wasn't focusing on the requisite start lines. It was very much results driven. And so I said to my wife, we were driving up to Augusta, I'm like, I'm going to tell Trevor what he's doing. And Tracy said to me, she goes, are you sure about this? Because you don't want to upset the apple cart during a major championship week. You'd rather shut up and be right than say something and be wrong. Okay? That's old school wisdom there. And so we pull into the house and we drive go through the garage, and I see his golf bag there. It's outside the kitchen door. And there's 3 different putters in there, which is not good if you're lining up the Masters, right? And he comes to the door, I'm like, how are you doing? And he goes, fine. I'm like, 3 putters? And he goes, yeah. And so I said, I can help you. And he said, all right, meet me at 9 a.m. on the green tomorrow morning. And so we did it, and it started to take, and he started to get into the mindset he did, and he was making good putts, and more importantly, hitting quality putts. And the drill that we were doing, I had a little plastic ball marker. I remember it was still a Young Life ball marker. And we were just sticking it in the ground on what his intended start line was. And his only controllables were, did I hit the ball solidly and did it go over my start line? And that was about 3 feet in front of him. And if he did, he had to say yes to himself. If he didn't, he would say no. And he started to hear a lot of yeses. And so he came to the realization, I guess, of that you can hit a good putt and it not go in. Mm. So he goes out for the practice rounds Monday morning, and my dad's walking up the side of the fairway. He was watching us on the green. And he goes, so how'd it go? You know, his dad cat in a hot tin roof kind of thing. And I gave him the ball marker and I said, this is the reason why your son's going to win the Masters.
Before?
Yeah, Monday. And my dad's like, oh, are you serious? Are you serious? I'm like, if he does what he's supposed to, I know he's hitting the ball well enough. He's never believed he can play here, but I believe he can. Mm. And fast forward, the preparation's going well. There was a bit of a speed wobble on Wednesday afternoon, but it all ironed itself out. And the following morning, I had to go back to Columbus for a college thing. And I talked with Tracy. She was in Las Vegas on business. Tracy's my wife. And she's like, how'd it go? And my response to her, I'll never forget, was, if he makes just a nice 10-footer early in the round, it's going to be plain sailing. On the first hole, he makes par. The second hole, he makes par. Third hole, he hits it to about 15 feet above the hole, like fast downhill turning. Fast. And he hits this big curler that drips in the front door and makes birdie. Off he went. Led from the start to the finish.
So you mentioned a word earlier, belief.
Yeah.
So I mentioned it before that, of my coach believed in me, maybe even more than I believed in myself.
Isn't that crazy? How I've worked with so many elite athletes where the coach or I don't want to say parents, because parents sometimes get a little, starry-eyed, but coaches see something that the players don't see. Why is that? Why? Help me with the athlete mind, even though I'm the guest on your show.
Well, I think you're one step removed. And what, for me, working with all these top athletes from different walks of life, I will say this thing that sounds maybe a little bit strange, but I think you'll get it. I say, I know that I'm in the presence of greatness. And that sounds like something that might be far-fetched, but it's almost like there's a radio frequency that they're tuned to. And I always say that this is two-part. This is not a compliment, this is an observation. The second part is that you're willing to be great and do whatever it takes to get there. And I think that's what they spot, is that willingness to strive for greatness. Mm-hmm. And that's not a common thing. Working with an NBA player, I'll ask him, Just Steph Curry, does he look different? And he's like, yeah, there's a difference to him on the court. There's something about him that he's different.
Yeah.
And just collected a lot of these stories. So, why not? We have a radio station that we tune to in our car, and we know that it's going to be there. So why wouldn't a human being kind of have a frequency?
I'm a big believer in frequencies, man. You're talking my language now.
So that's what I would say, is that there's just something different. And also there's a nature to it where you're kind of almost self-tortured as well. Like there's a level that you will just, like how you described yourself, how you described your brother, that you're willing to go to just do it, whatever it calls for.
Do you think, I've turned the tables. I've started hosting the podcast. Do you think there is a requisite amount of fall down 7 times, get up 8? Yes? It's the willingness to come back to the practice. It's the willingness to take another step. It's the willingness to pick yourself up after you've had that mortifying loss or failure or whatever and go, okay, I'm going to lament this, but now it's onward. There's a lot of that stuff, yeah?
Well, it's interesting because now I can talk about my brother a little bit, because going into the national championships, he wasn't a favorite. He was the dark horse. Mm-hmm. And he qualified for the finals. So he's one of 8, and he's in the outside lane.
That's not the good place to be. Yeah.
No, yeah, they circle seeds. So on the outside, definitely not expected to win. And this ended up being the fastest heat ever. But right before, myself, my coach especially, he knew how to push the button in my brother, which was, your brother did this, you can do this. And so it was really simple. Yeah. That's what you probably instilled in your brother, was not just a belief, but a simplicity of, just go do this. This is who you are. And that's where, when he wins, what's it like afterwards? Did it kind of click into place where it's like, of course this happened? I mean, of course it's amazing, the experience, but also it didn't necessarily completely come out of nowhere.
I don't know about that if you're talking about the Masters. I know Trevor for a while, because he spoke of it, for a while he didn't feel worthy of the green jacket. Because Masters champions to us are legends, like Seve Ballesteros and Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer and Gary Player and, oh gosh, the list is endless. Tiger Woods, these are legends of our game. And then they have that Tuesday evening dinner, which is the most select fraternity in golf. And Trevor describes it, how you sit around this table with the people you idolized as a young person. And to be a part of that fraternity was like mind-numbing. Now, I'm sure now that he's advanced in years and he's in his mid-40s or whatever he is, now he feels like he's worthy. But originally, it was a burden for him to bear.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, whereas I believed he could win it, when he won it, to this day it's surreal to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew he could do it. Then when he pulled it off, it was like incredible. Now I look back on this and go, how the hell?
Yeah. It was like that for my brother. It's hard to watch your brother compete.
It's the worst thing in the world to be a fan or a family member of some high achiever. My oldest daughter, Izzy, is a really good golfer. She's talented. But she got to it late, kind of like you. Maybe I should get her to talk to you. And she has everything. She is like fallen out of heaven swinging a golf club. But she's sort of taking her lumps a little bit. And watching her play is my favorite thing in the world and my least favorite thing in the world to do, all in one breath. Oh.
Yeah, I still remember, watching the race, and it's 4 lengths, and I just remember he took the lead from the start, and then the second length he's still in the lead, and I'm standing next to my dad, and I've been screaming, and he's been screaming, but I now have to sit down because I'm going to pass out, and I'm yelling to my dad while I'm sitting down. If he's leading off that last wall, he's going to win. And yeah, it was a pass out kind of moment where it was just like, it was surreal. And still to this day, it feels like we shared the journey, on some level. And you must feel some connection to the achievement.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. The whole thing, the loop that was tied for me was incredible because as a young golfer, strangely, like when I was youngish, I had the regular golf heroes. But then when I learned something about the game, my hero became Bobby Jones, which is kind of weird for most normal people, but I admired the statesman that he was, and he was well educated, Harvard and Georgia Tech and Emory, and then he was obviously a champion. Got the ticker tape parade in New York City after he completed what was the impregnable quadrilateral at the time, their Grand Slam. So I was a fan of Bob Jones. So I come over to college, because I went to college where I was the coach, and the Country Club of Columbus, the head professional there was a guy called Fred Haskins. Now, this is back in the day. Now, Fred Haskins worked for Stuart Maiden, who was Bob Jones's coach, club pro. So there was this weird sort of synergy there. Then I'm in Georgia, where Jones was in Atlanta. Bob Jones founded the Masters Tournament and many other clubs around there. So it was all this kind of underpinning of this whole Masters thing. And it was, so it does feel like I was a part of it. Now look, he went and wielded the golf clubs like a champion for 72 holes. Mm-hmm. But in a small way, I do feel like there's, it was, I was there, played a small role in it.
So you're maybe touching on this intentionally, or, just take it where I want to take it. I had a conversation with Grant Waite, who's PGA champion, and we both are really kind of geeks about, he's really into the mechanical, and then I'm very into the mental. So we're always looking for patterns, So Unlimit Your Potential originally I was 6 years old, and it just started with a sort of curiosity of, what if you could just unlimit your potential? What would that look like? So that's always been my curiosity, and I found that I was always looking at patterns. And so we were having this conversation, and Grant said to me, he goes, I think that the players that have an element of fatalism, I had to go really look that word up, but it's already written, that they actually handle winning better and they also handle losing better. Would you say that there's an element to that, as far as like a connection to, if you want to call it synergy, it could be faith, it could be, team first kind of mindset?
Off the top of my head, I'm a man of faith. I firmly believe that faith plays a part in it. Like, I believe that great performance, now it's golf for me, but I feel like this is universal. Great performance happens at the intersection of good physicality, good mentality, good emotionality, and good spirituality. When you got those four pillars jiving, that's when a person performs at their best. Because it's not like the physicality overdoes the emotionality or vice versa. But the whole thing for me falls under the spirituality of it, to be able to look at the thing and go, okay, well, the reality is, it's just golf. It's like this shot means life and death to me. But like Scottie Scheffler does, at the end of it, I was like, okay, well, it was just another golf tournament. It doesn't define me. Strangely, Larry Mize, Masters champion from 1987. I taught him for a while. He lived in Georgia. And so I would give him golf lessons, but I learned more about life from that man than anything else. And Larry once said to me, because I asked him, because every time he signs his autograph on a Masters flag, or any flag for that matter, he puts his name and then puts a Bible verse underneath it. And it takes time. Normally, athletes, it grinds my gears when they don't write out their name. That's just an aside. They just scribble on here, and it could be anybody. For some little kid who's been waiting all day long, but I'm digressing. So Larry signs his name and then writes the whatever the Bible verse may be, John 3:16, let's call it. So I said to him, Larry, you got a cadre of folks waiting for you here, but he does it every single time. And so I'm like, okay, I get it, but why? And he gave me a response that kind of took me back. He said, winning the Masters is what I did. Winning the Masters is not who I am. And I felt like my life sort of took a bit of a turn then, when it was always about performance, results and stuff. And I was sometimes driving yourself to a mental early grave. You think you've got it all together, but you really don't. But Larry's like, so you make a mistake, it's okay. I operate under grace. So yes, to your thing, I know Grant well. I can see why he would say fatalism, because he's New Zealander. But Larry put it very succinctly, where he goes, the achievements is what I did. They're not who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So do you find that there's a way that you could make, I trust, faith, belief, or the big, intangible, tangibles. That's always for me. I have the 3 M's. The first M is mechanical. The second M is mental. So it's kind of the mechanics of the mind. And then the third M is going to be the magic. So non-denomination, just faith, trust, belief.
Yeah.
What have you found? Is there anything that you could put your finger on that would help people in that third area? Because that's the mysterious area that I always like to explore a little bit.
The faith aspect of it.
Anything you want, whatever comes to mind.
I'm not a qualified pastor, so this is difficult. Okay, here's how it is. Because I actually have another podcast called The Greater Call that has become, it's a labor of love for me. Labor of love is wrong because it's not a labor. I actually enjoy doing it more than I do the golf show, which is globally popular. And it's called The Greater Call because it's about these heroes of the faith that were called to something greater. And as I've done the research on all of these guys, every single one of them, they weren't qualified, but they were called. They weren't all like big resume, glitterati, and then they get picked for a job. No, these were ruffians of society more often than not, that had a special gift, and then that gift was highlighted in them and they became, I don't know, great kings or great warriors or whatever the case might be. So I would say to you, you know what's inside. It's easy to look outward and go, gosh, this is impossible. Because most times it is. The fact that I'm sitting here as an announcer for CBS Golf in the United States is way beyond the realms of possibility. It should not have happened, but it became a reality. So what I'm saying is, God doesn't qualify the called. God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. I said that right the second time. Because if you're talented and you hook up with a great coach like a Seth or whatever, like we were talking about, it's the coach, it's the guidance, it's whatever you want to call it, just unlocks that special something that you have within that you kind of know, but you don't really know about it. And you don't have to cultivate it yourself.
The question I think that would be helpful, after I was done with my sport, my identity, I didn't realize that I had built this identity of Seth the swimmer. And then when it ended, I don't think anything really prepares you for that, unless you maybe have a mentor that is able to say, the sport is not who I am, it's what I do.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming because I was just laser focused. The more I focus, the better I get. Mm-hmm. And then when it ended, I started having these debilitating panic attacks where the world was just kind of spinning, literally. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to get into a program, kind of a group setting, that would coach me into understanding my fears, these anxieties, where they came from. Yeah. That can also happen with golf, with the yips is somewhat similar as well. So that experience for me really was transformative. I took my time with it so that I could really understand it. So to turn a weakness into a strength, that athlete in me. Yeah. You doing the pivot that you've done as a player, as a coach, agent, now with doing the highest level, I mean, you and your brother are like the voice of golf. It seems like, I mean, I see you guys everywhere.
Yeah.
What was that pivot like for you? What would you say is?
It was surprisingly easy.
Okay.
I'm a teacher deep down. I still teach, a golf instructor. As a college coach, I loved it, all 21 seasons or whatever it was. But towards the end, splitting time between the announcing and the college coaching, I felt like it was divided interests. And that laser focus you talk about, something was always going to suffer. And it became the college job because I felt like I had a voice finally when I joined CBS. And then as an announcer, I'll be honest with you, as it compares to being a coach, you can never switch an athlete off if you're a coach. Like football coaches, they might be out of season right now, but they are still working as they plan for the next season. So it's never off. The beautiful thing about a TV show or a podcast, 6 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, we're done, And then it's not done because you live what happened and you reminisce and you take it with you. Then the next day is normally like a decompress-ish, and then you start preparing for the next one. But a golfer, man, I'd have guys playing in Europe calling me in all hours of the night. So I'm still a teacher. I still give lessons, but the broadcast stuff is, I feel like I have a voice now.
Okay. And last question.
Yes.
So take off on my name, of course. Call it the pep talk.
All right.
So what would you recommend? I mean, I'm a geek about all the tools, and you mentioned one that helped your brother possibly to win the Masters. What would be some tools that just come to mind, and you could just go through them quickly if you want to?
Like golf training aids?
It could be golf, but I also think it probably relates to life on some level.
Okay.
Variability that's built into golf is the way life is.
Yeah. Well, I can give you golf stuff that's easy to use. If you just, like we talk about being disciplined about fundamentals, just get yourself some alignment rods and at least know where you're going. If you're attempting to get to Flagstaff, Arizona, and you don't have a map or you don't turn on the GPS, you're not going to get there. And it's the same thing with whatever your goals are in life. So I would say get some alignment rods when you play golf. Get a lesson or two is always a good thing. It's good to have a mentor, someone to bounce ideas off. And then as far as life goes, I'm a strong advocate of finding someone who loves you enough to give you the hard truth. Someone who's prepared to pat you on the back and then pat you a little lower if you're not doing the right thing. And whereas it's not nice to get that, the disciplining at times, that's where the champions are forged. Think about that. It's not all sunshine and lollipops when you're trying to achieve something great. So having someone there who's going to say to you, attaboy, or no, not so much, that's going to be, to me, one of the best training aids you can get.
Perfect. Well, this has been a true pleasure. I appreciate your time. And is there a place that you would like to send people as far as both of your podcasts or any other information for people?
Yeah, thank you. I'm on socials. It's at Mark_Immelman. Have a YouTube channel. It's my name. And then there's a website, markimmelman.com, so go check it out. I mean, it's either Mark or Trevor. You're going to find one of the two of us, and I'm the more charming one, so find me.
Well said. All right, thank you.